Hello, I'm Rob Hallam and welcome to Car File. Now this week the keyword is fun. We're basically looking at fun, sporty cars that are either great for nipping around town or really going for it on those country roads.
A glamorous location for the launch of an important car. In fact, Japan's best-selling car for 3 years running. It's the Suzuki Wagonr. Or shouldn't that be the Wagon... Ah! Well, no. This is the new version. It has been thoroughly revised, so gone are those rather quirky Japanese boxy looks that really were lost in the translation. And we get this, a rounded, more European version. It's really rather cute. More, in fact, of a Wagon R. Thanks to the really surprisingly lofty driving position and a quite surprisingly high standard of fit and finish in here, it feels a lot more substantial than you might expect from first looking at it. And all that acreage of window and glass might make it look like something more suitable for growing tomatoes, but actually means there's no shortage of visibility to peer around you. Unfortunately, it also means you can be seen rather easily. Despite its tall and narrow appearance, the drive is not all rock and roll. It's really quite comfortable. The gearbox is precise and accurate, the engine willing, and the handling quite rewarding. This is crazy. I'm driving around Monte Carlo, one of the glamour capitals of the world, in this. There's people out there in Ferraris. It's embarrassing. With a wagon. Oh. It's the result of collaboration between Suzuki and GM, with the Vauxhall version being badged Aguila. The European influence is clear to see. Some of the wackier elements of the design have gone, and that includes the ridiculous tail rail boot handle, now replaced with a far more sensible item. Because we see so few of them in the UK, it's easy to forget just how popular the Suzuki Wagonr is on a worldwide scale. In actual fact, they've sold over 1.5 million of them. And that's a lot of ours sold. It may be small, but it's strong. Both safety and security have been enhanced. There's now an immobiliser and double door locks, so there's no danger of getting your arse swiped. It's not without its faults though. Whilst the rear headroom was designed around the giraffe, I think the rear legroom is aimed more at the gerbil. Wagonr. However, if you can forget its links with its lunatic predecessor, then I think the new look is genuinely quite appealing, which will make Suzuki doubly pleased because they've announced that last year they smashed through the magical 1% share barrier when it comes to market sales in the UK. Wagon hurrah! Anyway, my boat's waiting, so wagon hurrah.
Facelifts are nothing new in the motor industry as old models are pepped up to square up to newer opposition. In the Super Mini class at the moment is awash with mid-term facelifts, including Ford's new Fiesta. Ford's little hatch is undergoing its second mid-term nip and tuck, so we've brought along Seat's new Ibiza to see whether Ford have done enough to stave off the latest challenger. Well, the immediate answer is no. To be honest, the Fiesta is getting a bit long in the tooth now, and the new face is only marginally better than the outgoing model. The sides and the rear have been left largely unchanged because to do anything more would involve major tooling changes, which Ford wouldn't want to do at this stage of the model's lifespan. Contrast that with the Ibiza, which gets a much more comprehensive facelift and altogether looks more attractive. The new family face following the lead set by the Toledo creates a fun and perky image. In here you can see signs of the VW Group's influence into Seat's design. The dash gets a soft-to-the-touch feel. There's a useful tray for putting coins and business cards in, and the heating and ventilation controls reek of German efficiency. But you can also see the Spanish influence with some annoying little bits and bobs. And look at this, it must actually be harder to fit manual wing mirror adjusters to cars these days rather than electric ones. A whole load of rods inside the cars rather than just wires. And if you need to adjust the passenger side mirror, you have to lean across to make that adjustment. Now surely we can expect better these days. Interior space inside the Ibiza is fine too. The seats are VW firm but orthopedically sound. Rear space is okay for small passengers, even on long journeys. And here is where the Fiesta really starts to show its age. The whole Super Mini class has actually moved on and rather left the Fiesta behind because space back here is really at a premium, and I wouldn't want to spend too long on a journey back there. Now, up front you get pretty well the same fascia as before, which to be honest is no bad thing. It's very curvy and looks more attractive than the Ibiza does. When you go to tap the dash though, it all goes horribly wrong because it's rock hard plastic. It seems a shame that Ford seem to be using the same suppliers as Daewoo for their plastic, which is not nice. Things really pick up out on the road in the Fiesta. This 1.4 engine is very peppy and zips along at a nice old rate. The chassis is well set up and just adds to the enjoyment. You could certainly enjoy a cross-country dash in this car. It doesn't feel at all out of place away from the metropolis. It's maybe in town where perhaps the Fiesta has its biggest drawback, because although it's got power-assisted steering, it's not particularly light at low speeds, which is not what you come to expect from a small car like this. Expect the sporting brand from the Volkswagen Group to provide a sporting drive to really rival the Fiestas, and this car almost pulls it off too. The engine sounds like something from a hot hatch with a multi-valve thrum as the revs rise. The gear change is not as slick and precise as the Fiesta's is, it has a more mechanical action, but the car feels well planted on the road. It's just at speed where it's not quite as sorted as the Fiesta is, and it's a bit of a letdown there. In no way though is this a bad car. Sometimes it can scrabble away from rest if really pushed hard in the wet, and that constant engine note could prove something of a distraction, particularly on motorway journeys. Now, choosing between these two cars really did look very easy on paper. The Fiesta really is getting a bit long in the tooth now. It has a very cramped cabin. Well, you know what I'm saying, don't you? The Seat Ibiza is a very good car. It carries all the hallmarks of a VW Group product. It's fun to drive. It carries 4 in comfort. However, if you want a car that's fun to drive around twisty A and B roads, then perhaps the Fiesta will leave you with that bigger grin on your face at the end of the day. But logic has to prevail. We think the Seat Ibiza just about wins through because it does everything else that little bit better.
Small is beautiful in the car world at the moment, and it's big, big business. But things are about to get an awful lot smaller. Let me introduce you to the Microcar. Now this little beauty is precisely 8 foot long, 4 foot wide, and that's precisely 2 feet shorter than the Mini, the original Mini car. And it gets a Diddy engine to match all 500 cc's of it. First thing you notice when you get inside the Microcar is the sound of the engine. It sort of whirs into life like a sort of turbocharged sewing machine. Fast it is not. 0 to 60, forget about that. It has a top speed of just over 60, but that's with a big downhill behind you. However, in fairness, it's pretty reasonable around town, keeps up with city traffic fine. Gear changes, simplicity itself. 1 forward, 1 reverse, with an automatic gearbox. Perfect for driving around town. Steering is reasonable, it feels fairly positive, it's quite light. Perfect for parking, of course, you can park it on a postage stamp. Those very strange people in France actually love the Microcar. They buy 33,000 of them a year, would you believe? The man who's hoping to bring it over here is a guy called Jonathan Haynes. He was the guy that saved Reliant cars. So who does he think is going to buy the Microcar? Mixture of people. Reliant Robin owners, he says, he thinks will go for it. Motorcyclists and people in remote rural areas who just simply want A to B transport and for whom speed is an irrelevance. Room-wise, for 2 people, it's not too bad height-wise, length-wise. It's very narrow, so if you've got a bit of a weight problem, this is not the car for you. The boot is reasonable. You can get a good sized sports bag and you can get all the weekly shopping in there. I'd like to say the driving experience was fun, a bit like a Mini, but it's not. It's not fun at all. It's totally functional. This is for people going from A to B who don't care about speed. So is Microcar the Mini sensation of the future? It's wonderfully economical. You can park it on a postage stamp, and it doesn't look bad in a sort of toy town type of way. But I just can't see Micromania catching on in the UK. Not at these prices.
All those technological advances are very clever, but I've seen the future, and it's here. Sorry, it's here. It's a funny thing, but as people are generation by generation getting bigger, cars are getting smaller, and this is very small indeed. It's the Smart, and it's the result of a collaboration between Mercedes, the car people, and Swatch, the watch people. Obviously. Just because it's small though, don't let that fool you into thinking it's basic, because it isn't. They've managed to pack an awful lot into it. For a start, all of these plastic panels covering the exterior are interchangeable and removable, which not only is good news should you ding one in the busy city traffic, but also means you can change the colour of your city car as and when you like. Okay, it may only seat two, but it actually does so in quite a lot of comfort. And how often do you really need to take more than two people in a car anyway? Once you're inside, it's not only the size of it that's quite surprising, it's the luxurious touches. We've even got air conditioning in here. But I do get the distinct feeling that somebody or something somewhere is looking at me. That'll be the rev counter and the clock then. It's funny, everything's kind of perky and chirpy in here, which makes it quite a pleasant place to be, and having a glass roof helps as well. There's loads of light. There are a few oddities too, like I haven't done this since I was in an old Saab. Do not like small cars. I can't stand them. So this thing must bear the full brunt of my hatred. You get that? I hate you. Stop looking at me like that. You can't, can you? Can't hate it. Try. Now, it has a turbo, which you might not expect, but what you definitely won't expect is that the gearbox is switchable between 3-speed automatic and a 6-speed manually operated sequential. The only problem is every time you change gear with it, it pitches the car forwards, so much so that it feels as if it's about to execute a perfect forward roll, which would be alarming. Mind you, it doesn't actually use fuel at all, never, ever. Well, maybe the odd sip. Certainly expect at least 60 miles to the gallon. Another handy feature, if you find yourself bored sitting in another endless city traffic jam, there's great entertainment to be had from the windscreen wipers, just waiting to see if they clash. They will one day. Nearly. No. Nearly. That's a hobby, you know. Oh, no. As visions of the future go, it's hardly Blade Runner, but if our cities are to become ever more congested, then small cars are the only way to go if we're going to hang on to our own personal cars at all. The Smart may not be perfect, quite a long way from it in fact, but it does point the way.
Now, just ponder this scenario for me if you will. You've been waiting for a good few months for your beloved dream sports car to turn up. and when it's finally delivered, you think it's fantastic. It's a dream come true. And then a few months into ownership, you get a letter from the manufacturer saying, "We're really sorry, but please can we have the car back in Germany, because we found out it might try and kill you on corners." A bit of a hard pill to swallow, you might think, but you TT owners, you stood fast. The car comes back, a little spoiler on the back, revised suspension, it's as good as ever. You're happy as Larry, all previous quibbles forgotten about. But then you're casually flicking through the car magazines and you see your Audi TT listed at £2,000 less than you paid for it. Well, that scenario is exactly what happened to the TT. But the fact is, there's still a 3-month waiting list for this car, which must mean it's pretty special. Now, the first special feature about the TT has to be the body design, which I think is superb. It's completely unique, unmistakable, and I think you'd be hard pushed to find many people that don't like it. Right through from the aggressive front to the elegant tail, the lines really are stunning, and even the recently added tail spoiler doesn't look out of place. It's the sort of shape that would get you speeding tickets when you parked up in the garage. Now, that attention to detail has been carried through to the interior on the TT. I think these days a lot of car manufacturers, when they're building the sporty models, think it's okay just to give you leather seats and a leather covered steering wheel, but not Audi. This dashboard really is a work of art. It's got that retro feel that's fashionable these days, but they've really set it off with the inclusion of the aluminium on the air vents, the gear lever, on the doors. It really gives the car that classy feel. As is usual with Audi, the attention to detail is superb, with the front lights, rear lights and filler cap all blending perfectly with the body panels. So I think it's fair to say that on looks alone, you can understand why there's a 3-month waiting list for this car. Now, when I got in this car for the first time, I was pleasantly surprised with the amount of headroom. I'm 6'3" and there's still probably another couple of inches to spare there. Legroom's fine, and all the instruments and stalks, they're all well in with easy reach, and the seats feel really comfortable. But the back seats, well, Audi, I don't really know how you can get away with saying this is a 4-seater. Anyone who can sit in the back there on a long journey and enjoy it, well, I'd like to give them a medal. Now, you've probably guessed by now that I quite like this car, and I haven't even mentioned performance yet. Well, under the bonnet we've got a 1.8 litre turbocharged engine, the same you'd find in the Golf GTI and the Audi A3, but it's got revised power. So the model I'm driving has got 180 brake horsepower, which gives you a 0 to 60 time of just under 8 seconds. But if that isn't quick enough for you, it is available with a whopping 225 horsepower, which must be a mind warp on wheels. Well, I've got to say it, I am completely in love with this car. Now, alright, I know Audi's had the problems at the start, and if you bought one before the price came down £2,000, you might be a bit aggrieved, but let's not take anything away from it. It's a superb machine. And alright, I might not be able to get my mates in the back, but with a car this good, I don't need any mates.
The Suzuki Wagonr. It's a quirky little city car. It's a tiny little people carrier for presumably carrying, well, tiny little people. And they'd have to be shaped rather like that to fit into its rather square shape. I've looked at this car before, and when I did so, I criticised it for perhaps not going round corners particularly well. But that's really not particularly fair. It's very tall and very narrow, and you can't really criticise it for something that clearly it's never going to be very good at. So we thought we'd see how the thing does in a straight line. And that's why we've brought it here, to Santa Pod, where straight lines are very much de rigueur. So before we do anything silly out there, let's take a quick recap of what we've got here. This in fact is the Wagon R Plus. It's a slightly broader and bigger derivative of the original Wagon R. And the shades, well, they're for this, the interior. Be ready. Don't blame me, okay? Ooh, it looks like something Heidi stitched in the 60s. Definitely not the kind of thing you want to encounter with a hangover, but then this isn't ever going to be bought by the kind of people who know what a hangover is. But I suspect it's fairly durable. But here's an oddity. Considering the Japanese are such a small little people, and I can empathise with that, I don't understand this, right? In a nice small interior, why do we have What? On his head? What's going on with that then? What? It's not necessary, is it? Clearly. I don't need that. Being fair though, in what is, after all, a very small vehicle, there's quite a lot of room. If we get into the back, you're sat slightly higher up than in the front, which gives it that nice powerful feeling. As you can tell, it's quite stylish. I'm sure I'll look quite good here. I'll look like this sort of thing. I think it's got a, you know, it's... Ooh. Oh yeah? Oh really? Think that's a car, do you? Oh really? Just because your wheels are bigger at the back than at the front? You didn't even do a burnout. Amateurs, I did. My wheels are hot. These tyres are just... Green, go! Come on, baby! Oh, we got a second. Come on, come on, come on, come on! We're gonna get him. If I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna win. We got 4. We got a gear left. We're doing 45. Come on! Call that a car. Hasn't even done a burnout. Amateur. Don't know what he's doing. Yeah, and close your window as well. Rules of the road. These are the basics. People need to know this. Amateurs. Oh, hang on, we're going. Go! Come on, baby. You can do it. Just, yes! Whoa! 30. I've got 2 more gears yet. We really are. With a surprising amount of space really in this fairly small but pretty flexible interior. This is definitely a lifestyle vehicle. Only thing is, perhaps not this particular lifestyle.